What if the most powerful billionaire mafia boss in Korea, feared by politicians, worshipped by criminals, and untouchable by law, was secretly cursed with a hunger no woman could satisfy, a fire that money, violence, and pleasure only made worse, until the day a quiet black African nurse walked into his life and silenced the dragon inside him, only for him to later destroy her in front of the entire world, believing she was the very poison that saved him, not knowing that the night he cast her out would become the beginning of his downfall, his madness, and the painful truth that the only woman who ever healed him was the one he trusted too late. No one in Seoul said Kong's name loudly. They whispered it. In penthouses and backrooms, in luxury cars with tinted windows, in police offices where files mysteriously went missing. Kong was not just a billionaire. He was not just a mafia boss. He was the invisible hand that decided who rose, who fell, and who disappeared without a trace. By 38, Kong controlled shipping routes, underground casinos, private banks, and entire criminal syndicates that stretched far beyond South Korea. Politicians smiled nervously when he entered a room. Rivals negotiated before they challenged him. His enemies did not insult him, they vanished. From the outside, his life was perfection. From the inside, it was hell. The penthouse overlooking the Han River was silent except for the sound of Kong's breathing, slow, controlled, strained. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a city glowing beneath him, soul alive and pulsing with power he owned in ways no government ever could. Behind him, two women lay asleep on silk sheets. Models. Beautiful, expensive, and completely useless. Kong sat at the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles had gone white. His body felt like it was burning from the inside out, nerves screaming, muscles tight as wire. The familiar pressure throbbed behind his eyes, a dull ache that promised a migraine before dawn. Nothing. Again. 12 years. 12 years of this curse. No release. No satisfaction. No peace. He stood abruptly, the movement sharp enough to wake one of the women. She reached for him lazily, smiling, confident in her beauty. "Kong, get out." His voice was calm, but it carried steel. The woman froze. She knew that tone. Everyone did. Within seconds, guards appeared, ushering both women out of the room without explanation. The door closed softly behind them, sealing Kong alone with his torment. He grabbed a crystal tumbler and hurled it across the room. It shattered against marble, amber liquid splashing like blood. Another followed. Then a lamp. Then a chair. The destruction did nothing to quiet the fire inside him. Boss, Kong Jae-min, his right-hand man, stood at the doorway, careful not to step inside without permission. He had served Kong for 15 years and had watched him kill men without blinking. But this frightened him more. "Same?" Jae-min asked quietly. Kong laughed once. A hollow sound. Worse. He pressed his palms against his temples, breathing slowly, counting like the doctors had taught him. It didn't help. It never helped. At 26, when it first started, Kong had thought it was stress. Power always came with a price. He had just taken control of his father's empire after a violent coup that left 3 rival bosses dead and his own hands soaked in blood. But the nights never eased. Desire without relief. Hunger without end. His body constantly demanding something it could never reach. Doctors had poked and scanned him like a machine. Hormones normal. Nerves intact. Blood work perfect. Psychiatrists blamed trauma. Prescribed pills that dulled his mind and slowed his reflexes. Unacceptable in his world. Shamans spoke of imbalance, of spirits unsettled by violence. None of them fixed it. Some of them didn't survive disappointing him. Kong moved back to the window, staring down at the city he owned but could not enjoy. He had everything men killed for. Money beyond measure, power beyond law, women who begged for his attention. And yet, He would have traded it all for one night of silence inside his own body. I almost lost control today, he said suddenly. Jamin stiffened. At the meeting? Kong nodded. One of the captains was breathing too loudly. I wanted to break his neck. Not because he betrayed me. Not because he disrespected me. Just because he existed. That was the truth that terrified him most. Madness in their world was not a weakness. It was a death sentence. If the others notice, Jamin began. They already are, Kong interrupted coldly. Rivals are watching. Waiting. A king who cannot control himself is already dead. Jamin hesitated before speaking again. There is one more option. Kong's jaw tightened. I've tried everything. This facility is different, Jamin said carefully. Private. Discreet. They treat the elite. Billionaires. Royals. Criminals like us. Kong turned slowly. His eyes were sharp, dangerous. And if this fails? Jamin did not answer. He didn't need to. Kong looked back out over Seoul, the weight of 12 unbearable years pressing down on his chest. He felt old, tired, hollow. Fine, he said finally. One last attempt. If this didn't work, he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold the dragon inside him. Across the ocean, in a modest apartment thousands of miles away, Selena Adeyemi folded her nursing scrubs carefully into a suitcase. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, soft but firm. Some people are not sick in the body. They are wounded in the spirit. Selena touched the small necklace resting against her chest, a simple charm her grandmother had given her before she died. You will go far, the old woman had whispered, and you will meet someone the world fears. Do not fear him. Look deeper. Selena had smiled then, thinking it was just another story. She didn't know she was packing her bags to meet the most dangerous man in Korea. And she didn't know that when their paths crossed, everything, his empire, her life, and both their hearts, would begin to burn. Selena Adeyemi learned very quickly that Seoul did not wait for anyone to feel ready. The city moved fast, too fast sometimes. Neon lights, rushing crowds, conversations she couldn't fully understand yet, all blending into a blur of sound and motion. From the moment she stepped out of Incheon Airport, suitcase in hand, Selena felt the weight of being foreign settle onto her shoulders. Not just foreign, different. At Yuri Medical and Psychiatric Institute, difference was not celebrated. It was tolerated, barely. The facility rose like a palace of glass and steel, tucked away in one of Seoul's most exclusive districts. It catered to the ultra-wealthy, the powerful, the untouchable. People whose problems could not be solved in ordinary hospitals because their lives were anything but ordinary. Selena adjusted her navy blue scrubs and walked through the revolving doors, her posture straight, her expression calm. She had trained herself to move this way, quiet confidence, no apology in her steps. Her grandmother had taught her that healers who doubted themselves caused more harm than good. At the nurse's station, conversations died the moment she approached. Eyes flicked toward her skin. Her accent, the Ghanaian name stitched neatly onto her chest. Selena Adeyemi. A middle-aged Korean nurse glanced up, offering a polite but distant nod. You are the new contract nurse. Yes, Selena replied warmly. First day. The woman hesitated. You have been assigned a special patient. Selena smiled slightly. Aren't they all? That earned her a look, half pity, half disbelief. Before the nurse could respond, sharp heels clicked against the floor. A tall woman in a white coat approached, her expression perfectly composed, her eyes calculating. Selena Adeyemi, she said. I'm Director Park. Her handshake was brief, firm, cold. Our patients are particular. Director Park continued as they walked. They expect discretion, obedience, and results. Many of them are not accustomed to being told no. Selena nodded. Pain doesn't care about power, Director. Director Park stopped walking. For a moment, Selena thought she had said something wrong. Then the woman smiled, a thin, controlled smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We'll see," she said. "Your patient arrives this afternoon." They stopped outside a private elevator guarded by two men in black suits. Their presence was unmistakable, trained, armed, dangerous. Director Park lowered her voice. "He has gone through 6 nurses in 3 months." Selena's brows knit together. 6. 2 quit the profession entirely. 1 required psychiatric leave. The others requested immediate transfer. Director Park studied Selena closely. "If you break, you will not be the first." Selena exhaled slowly. "May I ask what his condition is?" Director Park's lips pressed together. "That is complicated." The elevator doors opened. "Good luck, Nurse Adeyemi," the director said softly. "You will need it." The private suite looked nothing like a hospital room. It was more like a luxury hotel. Polished wood floors, abstract art, a sitting area overlooking the Han River. The air felt heavy, charged, as if something dangerous lived inside the walls. Selena stepped in carefully. She saw him immediately. Kong stood by the window, tall and imposing, his broad shoulders rigid, his hands braced against the glass, as if holding himself together through sheer force of will. Even from behind, his presence filled the room. This was not just a powerful man. This was a man at war with himself. Selena felt it instantly, the tension rolling off him, thick and suffocating. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with recognition. "You are in pain," she thought. "Kong," she said gently. "I'm Nurse Selena Adeyemi. I'll be overseeing your care." He turned. The moment their eyes met, the air shifted. Kong froze. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. Selena felt something stir deep in her chest, a quiet pull, as if her grandmother's voice had reached through time and placed a hand on her back. Kong's expression flickered, confusion first, then something dangerously close to fear. "What did you do?" he asked hoarsely. Selena blinked. "I introduced myself." He took a step closer, then another, slowly, cautiously, like a predator unsure whether he was approaching prey or salvation. "Don't move," he said. "Just don't move." Selena obeyed, her pulse steady despite the tension humming in the air. Kong stopped inches away from her. She could see the exhaustion etched into his face, the dark shadows beneath his eyes, the subtle tremor in his hands. "Take my pulse," he said suddenly. Selena reached out, placing her fingers against his wrist. The reaction was immediate. Kong inhaled sharply, his breath shuddering as if he'd been struck. His knees buckled slightly, and for the first time, the infamous Mafia boss let out a sound that wasn't rage or command. It was relief. Tears spilled down his cheeks, unrestrained, unashamed. Selena's heart clenched. The fire she couldn't see, but somehow felt, flickered. For the first time in 12 years, Kong felt quiet. "What are you?" he whispered, staring at her like she had shattered the laws of his existence. Selena swallowed, maintaining her composure even as her own hands trembled faintly. "I'm a nurse, Mr. Kong. Your pulse is elevated, but steady." He laughed weakly. "That's impossible." She met his gaze, unflinching. "Pain doesn't disappear without reason. We'll find yours." Something in her voice, calm, grounded, unafraid, anchored him. Kong stepped back slowly, as if afraid the moment would break. "Sit," he said. "Tell me everything you know." Selena hesitated only a moment before nodding. As she began her assessment, Kong realized something terrifying and wonderful all at once. For the first time in 12 years, the dragon inside him was silent, and he never wanted to hear it roar again. Outside the suite, Director Park watched through the security feed, her expression darkening. Inside, a jealous nurse clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms. And somewhere deep in Seoul's underworld, unseen eyes began to take notice. The dragon had found something. And that something was dangerous. The change did not happen all at once. It crept in quietly, almost invisibly, like dawn slipping into a night that had forgotten what light felt like. By the third day of Selena's assignment, Kong noticed something that terrified him more than the pain ever had. He was sleeping, not the shallow, drug-induced unconsciousness he had endured for years, but real sleep. Deep, dreamless, restorative. He woke without the familiar fire clawing at his nerves, without the migraine drilling behind his eyes. It felt wrong, and yet undeniably right. Selena noticed the difference immediately. "Your cortisol levels are down," she said one morning, studying the monitor with professional focus. Heart rate stabilized. Muscle tension reduced. Kong watched her from the leather chair by the window. She moved with quiet confidence, never rushing, never shrinking. She didn't flinch when his guards entered the room, didn't soften her voice in fear or sharpen it in defiance. She simply existed, and his body responded. "It's you," he said. Selena looked up. "What is?" "When you're here, the noise stops." She didn't dismiss him. She didn't romanticize it either. "Then we should figure out why," she said calmly. "Healing that depends on mystery alone is fragile." Her words unsettled him. Everyone else in his life wanted to own him, fear him, or use him. Selena wanted to understand him. Kong began inventing reasons to keep her near. "I'm experiencing chest tightness," he said one afternoon. Selena pressed her stethoscope against his chest, brows furrowing. "Your heart sounds perfect." "Check again." She shot him a look, half reprimand, half amusement. "You're wasting resources." "I own this facility," he replied smoothly. "I'll waste what I want." But when she turned to leave, his voice dropped. "Stay." It wasn't a command. It was a plea. Selena hesitated. Every rule of her profession warned her to maintain distance. But something in Kong's eyes, raw, unguarded, made her sit back down. "Tell me about Africa," he said quietly. She blinked. "Why?" "Because when you talk, my head feels empty." In a good way. So she told him. About growing up in Lagos, about the smell of rain on hot pavement, about her grandmother's hands, wrinkled, steady, healing. About learning early that strength didn't have to be loud to be powerful. Kong listened like a man memorizing oxygen. "I could bring your family here," he said suddenly. "Whatever you need." Selena smiled softly. "You can't buy belonging, Kong." The use of his name startled him. No honorific. No fear. Just calm. Something loosened in his chest. Over weeks, their conversations deepened. Kong spoke of his childhood, of a violent home, of learning early that softness invited pain, of taking over his father's empire after betrayal and bloodshed, of the night he realized power kept people close, but never safe. "I don't know how to be normal," he admitted once, his voice low. "I don't even know what that means." Selena met his gaze. Normal is overrated. Peace isn't. And peace, that was what she gave him. Not through medicine. Not through touch alone. Through presence. Kong's men noticed. "You haven't had an episode in weeks," Jae-min said carefully one evening. "That's unprecedented." "Don't say it out loud," Kong muttered. "You'll jinx it." But hope, real, dangerous hope, had already taken root. He began to look forward to her arrival, to the way she smelled faintly of shea butter and clean linen, to the way she listened without interrupting, to the way she didn't look at him like a monster. Selena felt it too. She told herself it was compassion, professional concern, cultural curiosity. But when Kong smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since she met him, her chest warmed in a way she could not ignore. The line blurred. The moment it crossed came quietly. "Have dinner with me," Kong said during what was supposed to be a routine checkup. Selena's pen froze mid-note. "Excuse me." "Not here," he added quickly. "At my penthouse. Just dinner." She met his eyes, searching for manipulation. Found none. Only loneliness. "That's inappropriate," she said gently. "You're my patient." "Then discharge me." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Selena's heart raced. "That's not how this works." "It can be," he said softly. "If you want it to be." She stood abruptly. "I need time." Kong smiled, not triumphant, but hopeful. That's not a no. Outside the suite, eyes watched. A nurse lingered too long at the door, her smile tight, her jealousy sharp. Director Parks studied reports with growing irritation. Kong's rivals whispered about the change in his behavior. The dragon was no longer raging. He was calm, and calm men made dangerous enemies. That night, Selena lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. She thought of Kong's eyes when he spoke of peace like it was a foreign language, of how his body softened when she was near, of how deeply wrong and deeply right it all felt. Across the city, Kong stood at his window, watching Seoul glow beneath him. For the first time in 12 years, he did not feel empty. He felt full, and neither of them realized that desire had already transformed into something far more dangerous than lust. Love. Kong did not fall in love quietly. Men like him never did anything quietly. When he wanted something, the world knew. And when he decided Selena Adeyemi belonged in his life, he did not hide her in shadows or treat her like a secret indulgence. He brought her into the light, into a world that had never been kind to women like her, or to love. The first sign was subtle. Selena arrived at the facility one morning to find 2 additional guards stationed outside Kong's suite. Not the hospital security, his men, dressed in tailored black suits, eyes sharp, hands never far from their weapons. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "No," one of them replied respectfully. "You are under protection." Her stomach tightened. When she stepped inside, Kong was waiting, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit instead of his usual relaxed attire. He looked nervous. "You didn't tell me you were assigning bodyguards to me," Selena said. "I didn't assign them," Kong replied. "I ordered them." She crossed her arms. "Kong, I know," he interrupted gently. "You don't like being controlled. This isn't control. This is protection." "From what?" "From my world." That answer chilled her more than any threat. Over the next weeks, the truth became impossible to ignore. Kong began bringing Selena into his life, not as a nurse, but as a woman he intended to keep. He invited her to dinners with his closest allies, men who had killed and bled for him. The room always went quiet when she entered. This was the woman who calmed the dragon. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with resentment, a few with calculation. Kong noticed everything. "Anyone disrespects you," he told her once, his voice calm but lethal, "they answer to me." Selena placed a hand on his arm. "I don't need fear to feel safe." He looked at her for a long moment. "I do." Their relationship deepened, slowly but inevitably. Kong learned how she took her tea, how she hummed softly when she was thinking, how she prayed quietly before sleeping, not loudly, not theatrically, but with a sincerity that unsettled him. She learned how he flinched at sudden noises, how silence sometimes frightened him more than violence, how he carried guilt like a second spine. The night everything changed came without warning. Dinner at his penthouse. No guards inside. Just them. Kong had arranged the table himself. Not Korean food. African. Jollof rice. Fried plantains. Spiced fish. He had flown in a chef after weeks of research. Selena stared, stunned. "You did all this for me?" He shrugged, uncomfortable. "I wanted you to feel at home." Something in her chest cracked open. They talked for hours. About life. About faith. About the cost of survival. When he kissed her, it was hesitant, almost reverent. And when they finally crossed the line, it wasn't violent or desperate. It was gentle, intentional. For the first time in his adult life, Kong felt whole. No fire, no hunger, no screaming nerves, just peace. He woke the next morning with Selena asleep against his chest, sunlight spilling across the sheets, and knew something with terrifying clarity. He would burn the world down before losing this. From that moment on, Kong stopped pretending. He introduced Selena as his woman, publicly, to his syndicate, to his rivals, to the city. "She is under my protection," he said at a closed-door meeting. "Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or disrespects her is declaring war on me." The message spread like wildfire. The Dragon of Soul had claimed a queen. Selena tried to slow him down. This world is dangerous, she warned. Your enemies will see me as a weakness. They already do, Kong replied. Let them. What he didn't see was the danger growing closer. Inside the hospital, resentment festered. A nurse who had watched Selena replace her in Kong's life smiled too tightly. Director Park studied Selena's files with growing interest. Access was granted. Logs were copied. Signatures practiced. Outside, a rival syndicate met in shadows. He's calmer, one of them said. Focused. Stronger. Because of her, another replied. Remove the woman, and the dragon burns himself alive. The plan was elegant, cruel, effective. Kong announced an engagement celebration, not a proposal yet, but a declaration. A blending of cultures. A night meant to show the world that he had found peace. Selena felt uneasy. Something feels wrong, she admitted the night before. Kong cupped her face. Nothing will happen to you. I swear. She believed him. That was the mistake. Across the city, a glass was prepared. A drug measured carefully. Medical records forged with precision. And as the lights brightened and music filled the room, the trap closed quietly around them both. The dragon had claimed his woman, and the world was about to punish him for it. The night was meant to be perfect. Crystal chandeliers bathed the ballroom in warm gold light. Silk and velvet brushed against polished marble floors. The most powerful figures in Seoul's underworld gathered beneath one roof, their smiles sharp, their eyes calculating. This was not just a celebration. It was a message. Kong had found something worth protecting, and he was no longer afraid to show it. Selena stood beside him, dressed in an elegant emerald gown that complemented her skin like royalty. Whispers followed her wherever she moved. Some curious, some admiring, some poisonous. Kong kept his hand firmly at the small of her back, grounding himself in her presence. You all right? She asked softly. As long as you're here, he replied. The music swelled. Glasses clinked. Laughter echoed. No one noticed when a server paused beside Kong's table just a second too long. No one noticed the slight tremor in Kong's hand when he lifted his drink. Except Selena. Kong, she whispered. You don't look well. I'm fine, he said, forcing a smile. Just nerves. But the fire, long forgotten, stirred. It began as a whisper beneath his skin, a tightening in his chest, a pressure behind his eyes. Kong blinked hard, trying to focus, but the room felt too bright, too loud. The dragon was waking. Selena reached for him. Sit down, please. He pulled away instinctively. The fire roared. Memories crashed into him. Blood, screams, betrayal. His heart pounded violently, his breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. What did you do to me? He snarled, his voice suddenly unfamiliar. The room fell silent. Selena froze. What? You think I wouldn't notice? Kong's eyes were wild now, unfocused. You think you could drug me and make me dependent on you? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Selena's world tilted. Kong, listen to me. I would never. Liar, he roared, shoving a table aside. Glass shattered. Guests screamed. Security rushed forward, but Kong waved them back. His gaze locked on Selena like she was a threat. Director Park stepped forward, her voice trembling with practiced concern. Mr. Kong, we found inconsistencies in Nurse Adeyemi's records. Unauthorized medications. Altered logs. Selena stared at her, disbelief choking her voice. That's not true. A jealous nurse appeared beside the director, clutching a folder. We tried to warn you, she said softly. She was experimenting on you. The fire consumed him. Years of fear, abandonment, and paranoia flooded back all at once. The calm he had built shattered like glass. You used me, Kong spat. You made me weak. Selena's tears fell freely now. I saved you. The words only fueled his rage. Get her out of my sight, he commanded coldly. Strip her license. Deport her. I never want to see her again. The room held its breath. Selena felt something inside her break, not loudly, but completely. She looked at Kong one last time, searching for the man who had held her like something sacred. He was gone. Guards escorted her out as whispers followed. Witch, gold digger, manipulator. Outside, rain poured down in sheets, soaking her dress, blurring the city lights into streaks of pain. Selena collapsed onto the steps, her sobs swallowed by the storm. Inside, Kong collapsed too. The drugs surged through his system, triggering a full relapse. He lashed out violently, injuring a guest before his men restrained him. The celebration dissolved into chaos. By morning, the headlines were ruthless. Mafia boss humiliated by foreign nurse. Illegal medical experiments exposed. Dragon returns to violence. Selena was gone by sunrise. Her apartment sealed. Her accounts frozen. Her name dragged through every corner of the city. Kong woke alone. The fire raged hotter than ever. And for the first time since he met Selena, peace was dead.